It was just another day, or so I thought, when I walked onto that flight. I had my first-class ticket in hand, my briefcase tucked under my arm, and a whole lot of exhaustion in my bones. 3 weeks of back-to-back cases, constant travel. You could say I was spent. But as the gate agent eyed weighing my boarding pass like I had walked in off the street, something told me this wasn't just any flight. This was going to be the one that changed everything. I wasn't imagining things. Not when she hesitated. Not when she looked me over as if I was in the wrong place. As if someone like mean African-American woman, a lawyer who had just secured and due law 8 million VY Tory for a client, didn't belong in that seat. Ma'am, this line is for first-class boarding only. Oh, I knew what she was saying. I didn't need a reminder. I had a first-class ticket. But I said nothing. I simply handed her the pass. And there it was, the moment that shifted everything. She hesitated, took the boarding pass, scrutinized it, and handed it back with a forced smile. The line moved, and I walked past, feeling that sting in my gut. Not just because of the way she looked at me, but because I knew, deep down, it wasn't an accident. This was bigger. Much bigger. Now, this wasn't the first time I'd experienced something like this, not by a long shot. As a civil rights attorney in Chicago, you get used to these little slights: the cold shoulders, the second looks, the way people question your authority because of your skin color. But as I stepped onto that plane, a Boeing 787, I was determined not to let it get to me. The last thing I needed was to get into a confrontation. My seat was 2A. It was a quiet, simple thing. A luxury I rarely allowed myself. It was my right. But that small, nagging voice, it kept whispering to me, warning that I wasn't just being paranoid. Something was off. The flight attendant, Bethany, walked past me, offering champagne, juice, whatever was requested by everyone else in first class. But when she reached me, a curt nod. She passed me by, never acknowledging me. Now, I could have said something. I could have raised a fuss. But, frankly, after the day I'd had, I didn't feel like fighting. At least, not yet. 10 minutes passed, and when she came back with a tray of drinks, she walked past me again. And that was it. My patience, already stretched thin from the week's grueling casework, snapped. I pressed the call button. "Excuse me, could I get some water, please?" Bethany stopped. Her eyes flickered briefly to mine. "I'll be back with the water after we finish serving everyone," she said, her voice colder than the glass of champagne in her hand. Now, this wasn't a luxury I was about to let go. Water? It was a simple request, right? But she ignored it. Again, the anger inside me burned hotter, and I pressed the button once more. She took her sweet time, and when she finally returned, it wasn't with a service. No, she brought the security guard. And that's when it hit me. I wasn't just another passenger. I was a target. The confusion wasn't just about the seat. No, the confusion was about me being there in the first place. I was the wrong color, the wrong person, the wrong type for the first-class seat. A white man, Mr. Harrington, had decided my seat was his. And just like that, he made sure everyone else knew it. I showed him my boarding pass. I showed him it was my seat. But it didn't matter. He didn't need to look. Bethany didn't need to double-check anything. "Mr. Harrington is a platinum member," she said. "We'll find you another seat." I wasn't levying. Not without a fight. I stood my ground. And that was when I said the words. The words that rang in the air with such conviction. "I'm not movying. This is my seat. I've paid for it, and I'll stay here." "Ma'am," she said, "I'm afraid I'm going to have to call security." The words didn't hurt. They didn't shock me. What hurt was knowing she'd already made up her mind. She already decided I didn't belong here, that I wasn't worth the seat I had paid for, the seat that was legally mine. As the air marshal and security arrived, I could feel every eye in that cabin watching me. The other passengers shifted uncomfortably, some pulling out their phones, some pretending not to notice. But I noticed. I noticed every single thing. They came for me. They marched me down the aisle like a criminal, handcuffed, humiliated. And the worst part? The worst part wasn't the handcuffs digging into my skin. It wasn't the looks of disgust, or even the way they tried to make me seem like the one causing trouble. It was the realization that I was alone in this fight. I wasn't just fighting for myself. No, I was fighting for every other person who had ever been told they didn't belong. Fighting for every Black woman who was overlooked, every Latino person who was questioned, every immigrant who was shoved to the side. But this wasn't where it ended. This wasn't going to be the last time I stood up. Not this time. The moment I was escorted out of the terminal, I vowed something. This wouldn't be just about a wrongful removal. No, this was bigger. I wasn't just fighting a flight attendant. I wasn't fighting just the airline. I was fighting an entire system. The media caught on, and my story spread like wildfire. Social media exploded with outrage, with support. But there was more. Much more. As I delved into Atlantic Airways operations, I learned the truth. The internal documents. The training manuals. They weren't just treating me wrong. They were doing this to everyone who didn't fit the mold. It wasn't just a fluke. This wasn't just a misunderstanding. This was policy. This was a system, an ingrained, institutionalized set of practices designed to push out anyone who wasn't white. Anyone who didn't fit their narrow version of who deserved to sit in first class. I had witnesses, employees who were risking their jobs to tell the truth. Amara, a former flight attendant, came forward. She'd witnessed the discrimination firsthand, seen how the airline would push out non-white passengers in favor of executives, VIPs. I thought I was alone, but Amarash was the first domino. And she wasn't the last. We took the fight to the courts. We demanded answers. And when we got those answers, it was worse than we'd ever imagined. It wasn't just discrimination, it was a cover-up. It was manipulation. It was corporate greed at its finest. They tried to discredit me. They tried to twist the story to make me the VY lane. But every lie they threw at me, it backfired. I wasn't going to back down. Not now. Not ever. And when the jury ruled, they ruled in my favor. Every single count, every piece of EVY Denke we presented, every lie they tried to spin it came crumbling down. Atlantic Airways didn't just lose a case. They lost their credibility. They lost their corporate armor. And the VY Tory wasn't just mine. No, this was for everyone who had ever been told their skin color made them less than. This was for everyone who had been sidelined, dismissed, pushed aside because of the way they looked. But even with all that, I knew that the work wasn't done. It wasn't just about the money. It wasn't just about the punishment. It was about systemic change. And we got that. We got it. 1 year later, I walked into the very terminal where I had been humiliated. The very same one. But this time it was different. The faces had changed. The policies had changed. And as I stepped onto that plane again, this time as a respected passenger in O1, not a single person dared to question my place. The thing is, that flight wasn't just a VY Tory for me. It was a VY Tory for everyone. And maybe, just maybe, it will be a VY Tory for all the others who haven't had a chance to speak up. So what do you think? Was it worth the fight? Was the change enough? Comment below, share your thoughts. Because this battle wasn't just about one seat. It was about claiming a seat for all of us. And trust me, this story is far from over.